food. But I would say now, probably in the last 2 years, at Murano, it's probably more the style I want. And I think with Pip's really understood it now, the new head chef. And I think Cafe Murano's got that, and Limewood, just about doing very good food, keeping it simple and just using very seasonal produce. To give Chris and Gordon their due, they just let myself and Gillian, who was working there at the time, and Chris to get on with it. You know, I don't think Chris approved the interiors. You know, they approved the budget, but not the interiors. I did 1 or 2 tastings with Gordon, run by the Crockery China, and actually we were left to get on with it all ourselves. You know, and I think that's what he wanted at the end of the day, because. And it's a bit like, you know, doing restaurants now. You can't put your name to everything and say, you know, you can oversee it, but you've got to let these chefs grow and let them develop. So I think by the time I came to buy it, it felt very much like my restaurant, and I certainly didn't have to worry about ringing up and going, oh, can I do this, can I do that? We just got on and did it. And I was very emotional when I handed my notice in. You know, I'd worked for him for 17 years, and I remember going to Scott's, so I went to meet him, and I burst out crying. You know, this waiter kept circling the table, sort of, you know, do you want a drink? And Gordon was like, what the hell's the matter with you? I think he thought I was going to say I was dying or something. I was like, oh, you know, I was out in this, I was going, oh, and he was like, don't worry, you know, what do you want? I want to help you. One thing he did say, he goes, if I'd known, we could have done that straight away. Well, it's enormous. At the end of the day, you have to pay 22 staff, you have to pay your mortgage, you pay your debt. And I think what people don't realise, it's very easy for people to go, I'm going to own my restaurant, I'm going to do it myself. But I took out a bank loan, my house was mortgaged up to the hilt, so if I defaulted, I would lose my house and my business. And every month until, in fact, October, my salary from Murano goes straight to pay a debt off. I don't actually take any money. I get some money from it and it goes straight to the bank. Literally goes, and in fact, I don't think I've looked at that bank account in 3 years or 4 years. In October this year, it's all paid off. And the bank were gobsmacked that we'd do it, but we were determined. And then, and we've still made money. We've still made a healthy profit, and we've still done that. I was taught very basic model when I started getting into cooking. If you take your 100% and you look at the end of the month, 25% goes on your wages, 25% goes on your utilities and your bills and all the rest of it, and your rent, and then 25% is on your wine, your produce, and then you have 25% profit. And that's pretty much where restaurants sit. Now, Neil loves talking about food, he really does, and he gets a real kick. I mean, he probably reads more books from me. We've got this outhouse, we've got all the cookery books, and my eternal bitchiness to him is he brings them in and then leaves them all around the house, and I literally just put them back, you know. So he does get a real kick out of it. We discuss food, and we go to restaurants obviously together, and we like the same food, which helps. You know, we do like just good, tasty food. But I think we talk probably more about running restaurants, you know, because this is his first head chef role. So it's more advice about what he needs to do, or nurturing young people, or bringing them forward, and that's what I think is quite important. I suppose restaurants are business, but yeah, I suppose in lots of ways I do more of that side of it than. I don't go in at 7 in the morning and do the cooking, but I do services, you know, but I will cover services, you know, when the head chefs are off and stuff like that, but I don't go in on a day-to-day basis. I'm in the restaurants every day, but I'm not on the rotas. Yeah, but I don't think you need to be. I think you've got to make sure you're given the opportunity, and I think you have to be honest about that. But Murano and Limewood is where I cook most, and then merchants and the cafes, they get on with it themselves. I don't mind it. I think it's good, and I think it's a great way of giving yourself good exposure, and I think it's a good way to give restaurants a good exposure. I think what you have to be wary of is you make it your living, unless you're going to be Jamie or Nigella or James Martin, where TV is their livelihood, and restaurants are second to it. But restaurants are my priority, so it can never be that it affects the restaurants. And again, you have to be very conscious that people are going to then see your restaurants and go in, and you know, and then they'll be, well, you're always on the telly, you're never in your restaurant. You know, it swings and roundabouts. Yeah.
Do you think?
I think sometimes you see loads of young chefs at like all the award ceremonies, the parties, this, that, and the other, and you know, they want to be on TV, they want to do that. But I think you've got to make sure your base is protected. And this is what I say about Murano, guys. I said, we can't afford bad reviews. We can't afford to lose our star or our 4A rosettes. You know, we need to always make sure we're protecting the brand and protecting the reputation, because otherwise, you know, everything else is built around that. You know, the success of Murano leads to the success of everything else. And if that's not working, then there's no point. I think you look for, one, their keenness, and enthusiasm. I don't mind taking on apprentices or young cooks at all. We do a lot of that at Limewood, actually, and we have it linked to an apprenticeship scheme. But to me, I think I do look at CVs and sort of you see 3 months, 6 months, a year. I do think you want someone who's got some staying power. And I think they've got to, just want to taste and eat food. But partly you realise we're about to start it. I think is it next week, the first one. We're going to do this big dine-out scheme with all the restaurants where we're going to say to everyone, you join a club, if you like, the dining club, I don't know what we're going to call it. They're going to pay 25 quid. And then they pay maybe 10 quid to each meal. And then the company, and I'll pay the rest. Because we always say you can't cook unless you can eat. And it's true, the amount of times you go to a restaurant and chefs want to give you more food and give you this and give you that, and actually you come away not enjoying the meal because they've overfed you and they've given you all the extras, and actually you just want a nice plate of food. So we said, go out, it's an educational thing, we're saying to them, go out, tell us what you think of this restaurant, what you didn't like about it, what you think we do better, what we do worse, what would improve Murano, what wouldn't. And they'll go out with one of the head chefs or the maitre d' or the manager, and they have to come back, and it's waiters and chefs. And because I think, when you start young, you don't pay a lot of money, and if a kid's on 19, 20 grand and they've got £600 rent, they can't afford to eat out. So how else are they supposed to get educated, I think they're important for the restaurant. I'd be lying if I said they're not important. If you're ego, it's always lovely to win something, but it's very important, I think, for the team. I think it's great for the team to sort of be nominated. Last year we took them to the Caterer. I think we'll do it again this year. And it's a great thing because it shows that they've got, they're doing something well and they're recognised by their peers, and I think that's really important. So we always sort of make sure that that you are entered into things, and like putting people through Young Chef of the Year or entering them Chef of the Year. I think it's very important to be part of all of that. Definitely. Look at Mary Ellen up in Manchester. You've got Lisa at Northcote Manor, Skye, River Cava. I think it's a huge amount of female chefs there. The 2 girls running the Gavroche, both female chefs. So I do think it is, and I think you're seeing a lot more women run and own their own restaurants now as well. So I think the landscape has changed, and also they're all different restaurants. They're not just high end or just easy cafes and stuff. There's lots of variety out there, which I think is important.